Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Flight. Hope you're doing great. This presentation is on advertising evaluation, and essentially, what we want to do is engage in research to measure the effectiveness of our advertising campaign. And by effectiveness, we mean that we want to know if the message was received, if it was understood properly, and then if it was acted upon. However, the advertisement itself goes under a fair amount of scrutiny before much of the execution is done, anyways. So there are several different types of campaign evaluation, so pre-testing, if you will, of the copy, the ad copy, and the message, and then also post-testing to gauge the actual effectiveness of the advertisement and the campaign. So with that in mind, that's what this topic is about, and so that's what we'll spend a little bit of time focusing on today. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. All right, as we move forward, we're going to talk about evaluating advertising across a couple different periods of time. So there's a process that we're going to go through where we develop we have an idea that we want to communicate, then we encode the idea in a message. That message, though, needs to be decoded and then acted upon by the audience. So the question is, does the audience understand the message? Do they understand it to mean what the sender intends for it to mean? And then are they able to act on it as proposed or as desired? So throughout the process, we want to be able to measure the effectiveness of our ad, and this may include the message itself, may also include the it may also include the mediums that we're using and the motivational tools, the hook that we have in terms of getting people to do what we want them to do. So evaluating though has to happen at a couple different places. Prior to and after advertising, we want to make sure that we're evaluating these aspects of the actual message that we have. So one thing we do is something called copy testing. Prior to executing an ad, what we do is we test the ad to measure if the intended effect of the ad or message has been achieved. So we asked if the message has built awareness, if it's created top of mind awareness, if it's motivated, and so forth. So the actual copy is the words or the text that are being used to build the message or whatever the message is. So advertising message, ad copy, the appeal that we're using, the mediums, the vehicles can be changed as needed, but the copy of it, the actual words, and we want to know if those words are effective in resonating with the audience. So when we say the words or we look at the words that are actually in the ad, does our audience understand them? Do they clearly depict something we want our market to do? And does it motivate the market to do what we want them to do as well? So copy testing. Post-testing is another type of testing that we'll do. So in post-testing, this is something that we do after the ad has been in place or after the ad has been read or listened to or internalized by the market. So we run the ad and then post-testing, what we do is we measure the impact or the changes that have been made during the next advertising campaign from the last one. So, this is one of these things where we gauge the actual change in behavior and we attribute that change post exposure to the advertisement that was actually run. So that's kind of that post-testing concept. Comprehension testing is another specific type of testing where we want to specifically measure if the recipient understands what they're reading or what they're hearing. So a prerequisite for any message is that they're properly decoded. Mentioned that already, meaning that the audience understands what the message is intended to mean. So the readability measures and understanding of the copy helps us know if the recipient actually comprehended the message, and if not, we need to maybe better write the copy, better write the message, maybe in using different words or different terminology. If I use a terminology or some type of slang or words that or things that my market simply doesn't understand, then they're not going to comprehend what the message is all about. We could use questionnaires to help accomplish this, or also to tap into more information than just comprehension and just some of the like behavioral reflections that we see in a post test or post message type of a question type of a test. So respondents then can be given a series of ads in this particular case, and after reading them, they're asked to do a sorting process or something along those lines where they can rate or rank the influence of each specific advertisement. And this is a real positive way where we can ask, again, a lot of questions in a questionnaire setting. And it's more quantitative in nature and less qualitative just by simple design. Moreover, this technique also helps us gather information in terms of how memorable the ad could be, and specifically whether its intention will change behavior. So we could add like likelihood to buy question within the questionnaire, and that would be effective as well. Portfolio recall tests. So this is similar a bit to a comprehension test where we ask folks to be able to tell us, what a message meant, and we may include this in a series of ads. So a portfolio recall test is similar in the sense that we give the audience a collection of advertisements, and we ask them to recall various aspects that they remember from each ad that they see. This test often helps us measure the ability for our ads to stand out, especially when they're in the presence of other ads that are competing for the attention of the respondent. Psychological tests, so emotional tests of feelings and emotions are something that are possible to have. We could actually do some physiological elements too, where we deal with the heart rate, EKG things, eye movements, and things of that nature as well. We could finally include some focus groups and interviews too. So focus groups and interviews are qualitative in nature, and you're going to get a little bit of a different take. You're going to get how people feel. You'll be able to ask them what they would rather see, and things of that nature too. So a little bit more then about post-testing. I mentioned post-testing as well, or earlier, and instead of the pre-test phase, we have post-test phases too. So recall tests ask what the customer remembered, what they stood out, what they remember after seeing the ad. Might also include something called a recognition test and also something called direct response measures too. So recognition tests then will ask for the customer to identify the name and the brand and the offer that they associate in the context in which they see the product or see it specifically within a magazine or within some type of outlet that it falls within. Direct response tests are actually more quantitative. where we can actually embed in our advertisement some type of a call to action, like we want them to come into the store and we want them to say they heard our message on the radio, or we want them to call a 1-800 number or something along those lines. We can actually count how many times the customer does this, and when we do that, we're able to get a measure for how effective the response is. So testing then happens in a lot of different places. We do copy testing, which may include comprehension tests, questionnaires, portfolio recalls, psychological tests, and things like that. Um, Oftentimes those are pre-test, we want to test this before the ad is actually run. And then we also have our post-test items as well there. So recall tests, recognition tests, and direct response tests. The point here is that we want to, before the ad is run, we want to be able to measure the effectiveness of the ad copy, that it does what we want it to do. Moreover, once the ad airs or is executed, we want to test its effectiveness. So that would then suggest that we have testing that happens before in the creation stage, and then after we test it to make sure that the effects actually came through as we would expect. Okay, so this then wraps up a little bit about advertising evaluation. A lot of different test forms. This is a quantitative or real science behind the advertising elements. Again, oftentimes this is outsourced to a research firm or an advertising firm to do for you. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.